As I stated in the presentation, the Channels panel is where you can create your luminosity masks and you can also store them. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to show you how to manually create luminosity masks. And then in another presentation, another video, we're going to talk about using some shortcuts, because it can be pretty tedious to create a lot of luminosity masks, as you'll see in a second. So to make this demonstration a little easier, I'm going to grab my Channels panel and I'm going to pull it out here so you can see what's going on between the layers and the channels. As in the first video, if I hold my Control key down on a PC or Command key on a Mac and go up to the RGB channel, you see a little finger with a square. If you click on that, it's going to do a selection of the lighter parts of the photo. So instead of going directly to work on it, I want to save that channel to have that particular selection. So if you go down here to what looks like the same symbol as the layer mask on layer panels, it says Save Selection as a Channel. So you click on that, and we have something called the alpha channel now, which saved, I'm going to delete that, which saved this channel as a gray mask. So let's, to keep ourselves straight, let's just label this here and we'll call that light. Okay. And then I also want one more mask, luminosity mask, that will channel, instead of targeting the lights, I want it to target the darks in the photo. So if I just right click here, I can say duplicate the channel, and I'm going to call it darks. Say OK, and let's make it so we see that one. Now if I inverse it, the opposite of light would be dark. So if you hit a Control I on the PC or Command I on the Mac, it creates the opposite effect for us. Okay. Well, now that we have these masks stored here, we can use them at any time to help us target adjustments. So let's go over to the one called light, and over down here at the bottom of the channels you'll see a little dotted circle, and this is for loading that channel as a selection, like what we did before. So if we load that as a selection and we go to our layers or our adjustments and say, let's say we want to do a curve adjustment, hit the curves, you're going to see right here that it created a layer mask for us. So let's take a look at that layer mask. And what it's going to do is, you see our darker areas are, this is pretty dark right here, and this is sort of midtones, and then here is very light. So whatever adjustment we're going to do is going to be targeted to the lighter. That'll be the most targeted. This will be the second most targeted, and this will be the least targeted. So let's go back here, and let's say we wanted to darken the clouds a bit, the lighter clouds. So if I pull down on my curves adjustment, you can see that I darkened the lighter part of it without affecting the darker parts, and I can show you that right here. If we hit Shift and click on it, you can see that that curves adjustment would have darkened this area and the sky by quite a bit. If I undo that, you can see that I just affected the clouds. In fact, if I turn that layer off, you can see that the white clouds have been darkened. Okay, so let's delete that, and instead this time let's select the one that we call dark and hit the load selection, load channel as a selection, and go back to curves again. So let's unselect that so it looks normal, and let's look at the layer mask it created by holding down Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac, and now you can see the layer mask is reversed. This is the darkest part now, which are the light clouds, and it'll be the least affected by any adjustment we make, and then the darker parts are lighter, so it'll be the most affected. So let's go back, and you can also see on the histogram here how we have no information on this side of the histogram. It's all on the darker side of the histogram. So let's say we wanted to darken these foreground clouds. So let me grab a point here, and it darkened the sky and it darkened the foreground, and we can tell by let's doing shift click. You can see that would be the adjustment without the layer mask. With the layer mask, and then let's look here. So what these channels will do, what these luminosity masks in the channels will do, let you target various tones, and not only with the adjustment layers, but you can use it for other things such as even sharpening, and we'll see some of that later. But to make it effective, just having something 50% lighter or 50% darker, that's not very targeted. We would have to create a bunch of channels here targeting much smaller tonal ranges than what's here. Now you could go in, and it's kind of confusing, there's a bunch of keystrokes. You can go in and you can create a dozen or so different tonal ranges, but nobody does that. So the next thing we're going to look at in the next video is using actions to create all these channels for you, which is much quicker.